Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a little bit of a look at a new Kricketune card. And this one's kind of fun, ladies and gentlemen. This one is extremely interesting. Kind of makes you work for it. Now, I should mention that our translation here does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet. And the first thing we probably need to point out is that it's a grass Pokemon. And being a grass Pokemon means that it's weak to fire. And with stuff like Welder at the moment, fire decks are amazing. This is a very, very bad weakness to have. And you're not really hitting weakness on anything. There is a potential for stuff like Magikarp and Wailord to suddenly become much better now. Or just water decks in general to try and fight the fire decks. Many of which are weak to grass. And then maybe... But for the time being, the tricks you've got are things like Life Forest, Prism Star and Shaman, which tend to, well, they're for healing. And you've got a terrible weakness. You do have Netball, however. Netball lets you search for a basic grass Pokemon or a basic grass energy. That is pretty good. As for the HP, you got 100 HP. It's less than stuff like Zapdos has as a basic, so I'm not in love. Retreat cost of 2 means you can't use U-turn board, and we sit there looking at the basics and going, that's not terribly impressive. I'm not loving this. Boo, hiss, etc. But there is an attack here, and I do like the attack very much indeed. It's a bit of a weird one, bit of an in-depth one, but kind of a fun one. So what it does is 30 damage. But if you have exactly one card in your hand, you do 130 damage. If you have exactly 3 cards in hand, you do 30 damage plus confusion. If you have exactly 6 cards in your hand, you do 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So, this is basically 3 attacks in one, at least 2 of which are proper job awesome. And they're on a stage 1 Pokemon that attacks for a single energy. This isn't some attack that's going to be difficult to get off. This isn't a stage 2. This isn't 4 or 5 energy. This is a single energy attachment. So let's go through the attacks one by one, shall we? Or the types of the same attack. First of all, if you've got exactly 1 card in hand, you do 130 damage for a single energy. Now, having exactly 1 card in hand, I'll be honest with you, is awkward. Because then you start the next turn with 1 card in hand. Or if you take a prize, 1 card plus however many prizes you took. Having said that, we weren't worrying about Granbull. And Granbull tries to get 0 cards in hand. This is 1 card in hand. This is, frankly, significantly easier. Because you can have 1 card that you just can't get rid of. And that's alright. We're kind of okay with this. With Granbull, there are sometimes super awkward decisions to make. We saw people playing some lists with Mysterious Treasure and no Psychic or Dragon Pokemon. They were literally using Mysterious Treasure just to discard a card from their hand. And you'd end up discarding cards like Diantha that you'd really rather save until you had a fairy Pokemon KO'd, but you couldn't do so because to do so would mean that you wouldn't then be attacking, or you wouldn't be doing all the great damage. It's really annoying. Well, this is much easier, because it's 1 card in hand, and having 1 card in hand is much easier than having 0. And 130 is kind of good. Now, it's not as good as the 160 Granbull does, but it is not too bad, ladies and gentlemen. We can get on board with it. There's a whole bunch of non-GXs out there, things like Buzzwole that will go down. And then, of course, you've got stuff like the aforementioned Granbull. This gets a lot of basic and stage 1 non-GXs. A few of the weaker stage 2s as well. Think something like the new Aegislash, for instance. But generally speaking, you're talking basics and stage 1s non-GXs. And if you're hitting for weakness, this gets even better. So, something like a Slowpoke and Psyduck, yay! Down they go! Because they've got 250. But something like a Magikarp and Wailord, unfortunately, is not going down here. even with the weakness. And you're not adding damage at the moment. There's nothing like Choice Band running around. So 130 is good. You're largely KOing if you're hitting for weakness, though not guaranteed. And you're getting a bunch of non-GXs for a single energy on a stage 1. And I know it's got a bad weakness, and I know the HP isn't great, but you are only giving up one prize, and it's not much of an investment to get it rolling. Now, the second form of this attack is, I think, the worst of them. If you've got exactly 3 cards left in hand, 30 damage plus confusion. And I don't think it is a coincidence that this is probably the easiest one to get rolling and the worst of them. It's fine, but it's not terribly spectacular. I mean, we've got things like Circuitry running round at the moment, and by at the moment, I mean we've had it for a while. And for 1 energy, that does 20 damage plus confusion, except it's on a basic that only has 10 less HP and can do 100 in paralysis if you've got 3 prize cards remaining. So I don't know how much I really like this. And confusion's fine, and as I've said in a bunch of videos, we're in a format where we don't have Ace Roller and we don't have Guzma, so special conditions are more likely to stick. I mean, we do see a bit of Cabalion GX running around, but special conditions are more likely to stick. And I like this, and this is fine, and this is wonderful, and etc, etc. But I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in love with this attack. It's fine, but not much more than that. As for getting 3 cards in hand, yeah, you're good. I mean, naturally, during your turn, you should be able to get to 3 cards in hand. I mean, if you play something like a Cynthia, you go into 6 cards, play 3 of them. Tate and Liza, you go into 5 cards, play 2 of them. You don't need to play all that much every turn to get a stage 1 and a basic energy, so yeah, you'll be fine. And then if you've got exactly 6 cards left in hand, you do 30 damage to the active, and then 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. That's kind of cool, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of cool. This is the spread damage we've kind of been waiting for. Now, time was, before rotation, we would use Tapu Koko. Now, Tapu Koko did need double colorless energy rather than just a basic, but it had free retreat, it was a basic Pokemon, and it did 20 damage to all your opponent's Pokemon. If you wanted to do 30, you'd use Latios, but the thing was that Latios did 30 to the active and 30 to one bench. It wouldn't go any further than that. It wasn't all Pokemon, it was just the active and one of the bench. Now, the best we've got at the moment for spreading is the Noivern that just came out in Unified Minds. Free retreat, and for 1 colorless energy, so it's all looking good so far, 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Cool. That's actually really nice. Love the free retreat, love the 20 damage to everything. But it's 20, this is 30. Now, Noivern has more HP and a better weakness, and it's got free retreat, though it is a worse typing. And it's for a colorless energy, and you don't need a specific number of cards in your hand. But remember that Kricketune is 3 attacks in 1. It could be 30 to everything, or it could be 30 in confusion, or it could just be 130. And I think that's where we get going so nicely here. I think that's why I kind of like this so much. I also like it because it's quirky and different and weird and fun and cool, but I actually think that there is potential. In a pre-release, I could see this being an absolute monster. Just don't end up with 0, 2, 4, 5 or more than 6 cards in hand, or else it's just 30 damage, and that's not good at all. 30 damage, 1 energy on a stage 1. No. That we're not liking. As for getting 6 cards in your hand, incidentally, that is a bit more awkward, because you play Cynthia, but you can't lose any cards. You really need to be playing stuff like Pidgeotto, something that can add cards to your deck, or to your hand, while playing stuff like Cynthia, and that becomes a little bit more awkward. I'm giving this between 3 and 4 Wassies, but don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. It may well end up that this is more fun than actually good. But I love this, and I love the potential, and it makes me really happy, and I just think it's a really good little card. But I would be very excited to know what you think about it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would you? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.